At number 10, we have the witching hour. Have you ever wondered why 3 AM is such a traditionally scary time? My friends, let me tell you about the witching hour. In folklore, the hour between 3 AM and 4 AM was considered a time for witches, demonic entities, and ghosts. They would roam free at their most powerful. Also known as the Devil's Hour, the time of night was thought to be a peak of supernatural activity, possibly because nobody was awake to pray. Any woman caught outside at this time of night, especially in the Middle Ages, was arrested on suspicion of witchcraft, unless they could provide a good reason. Simply roaming free because you felt like it was not a good enough reason in the Dark Ages, and many of the women who were caught out at night were executed for witchery. There may actually be a scientific explanation for all of the bad juju discussed in the witching hour folklore. It seems that, oddly, ghostly experiences and apparitions tend to happen between the hours of 2 AM and 4 AM, which includes the dreaded witching hour. It seems at this point of the night, the amount of melatonin in the body peaks, which could be a reason for the ominous occurrences. That or witches.
Number 9. Joe's Paranormal TV. If you have a paranormal YouTube show and you go looking through the woods at night, you're pretty much asking for trouble. You can't complain about it. It's like eating deep fried cheese and then complaining that you're constipated. It comes with the territory. Well, on Joe's Paranormal TV, one night he decided to go see what a creepy stretch of woods had to offer at 3 AM, and it didn't disappoint. While Joe is trekking through, we hear some strange metallic banging at what sounds like voices. It could be some friendly campers, or it could be a crazy metal pot man letting you know he's about to murder you and then cook you in the pot he was just banging with. Then he hears what sounds like a baby crying. What the? If that wasn't enough, he comes to a clearing of what looks like a bunch of broken trees set in symbols. So this could be witches or a bear that was using them as a back scratcher. Either way, you probably shouldn't be hanging around the woods late at night if you want to keep all your limbs attached to your body.
Okay, so is anyone up for an urban legend? Next at number 8, we have the little baby ogre. I don't feel good about baby ogres. Behold this footage from a famous Japanese Kleenex tissue commercial. Okay, child ogre, creepy singing, sure, but this is Japan, land of the eel ice cream and game shows such as Happy Pie Hell. This is normal, right? Wrong. The story goes that after this commercial aired in 1986, everybody involved died or met a horrible end. Isn't dying meeting a horrible end? For example, the woman in the commercial was supposed to have birthed a baby of her own, but it turned out she died in childbirth. Further urban legends say that if you watch the video at 3 AM, the footage will warp and you'll become cursed. Some say it's 12 AM, but honestly, one person's 12 is another person's 3, literally if you live on different coasts of America. So why is it cursed? Well, apparently that little ditty she is singing is alleged to be a German folklore song with the lyrics in German saying, "Die, die, everybody's cursed, everyone will be killed." Good. Somebody allegedly caught the video changing and warping on camera. Have a watch.
It's a fine day, people open windows, they leave their houses.
Sorry, I might have cursed you there. What's a little curse between friends?
At number 7, we've got Tony Mccluseys' black bag. Sometimes it's the people you think you can trust that turn out to be the most dangerous. Yeah, next time someone close to you tells you that they'll love you and always be there for you, be like, oh, I'm onto you. I'm not getting my eyelids stolen from the skin bandit. Tony Mccluseys was caught on camera late at night pulling what looks like to be a black garbage bag out from his car and taking it to a place to be disposed. Now, what is in this big old garbage bag? Was it some biohazardous chemicals that needed to be disposed of very properly? Or maybe it was a wedding gift that he just couldn't bear to look at anymore after his divorce? How about his lovely sister Gemma? Tony Mccluseys chopped up his sister and stuffed her into garbage bags before secretly trying to dump her body. Luckily, he's very dumb and got caught on CCTV camera and sentenced to 20 years in prison for his horrible crimes. Apparently this was all over an argument, so next time you catch your roommate eating your Cheez-Its, maybe you should just let it go.
You don't know this, but when Che walks off after doing his bit, he clicks.
I click?
Yeah.
Every time?
Every time. Coming into number 6, we have the neighbor. There is an Ask Reddit thread which poses the question, what's the scariest thing that's happened to you at 3 AM? There are some pretty intense responses, some including like ghosty woasty stuff. But when I think about the reality of being met with some situations, reading this truly terrified me. River Tiberius wrote this last year and got 1.1 thousand upvotes. They wrote, "This happened a year ago. My family was all asleep at 3 AM when I awoke to scratching at the front door. I peeked through the window to find a beaten, bloody young woman sitting cross-legged on my front step, staring back at me. She was looking me in the eye. It was my neighbor. Her left eye was swollen shut. She had a laceration on her head. I opened the door and tried to get her to come inside. She was extremely drunk and hardly wearing anything on this cold winter night. She was babbling and not making any sense. I called 911, but when she realized I was calling for help, she screamed in my face, climbed over my chain link fence, and flopped to the ground. She ran down the street, flailing her arms, bleeding and screaming. I thought her boyfriend had beat her up. They hadn't been known for domestic violence issues. I came to find out that earlier that day she'd got rip-roaringly drunk and then tripped and hit her head on concrete. The laceration on her head actually had stitches in it already, which is why I couldn't see them in the dark. When she got home from the ER, she stole her roommate's whiskey and pounded most of the bottle. She then just went berserk. Jeez, that was a difficult read, poor girl. Honestly, it sounds like she was in a really bad place. It must have been even more terrifying to hear scratchings on the door, but then open it up and know the person who turns up out there. And seeing them like not acting like themselves like that, acting possessed, that's pretty scary. I really wonder how her story played out, but like, I hope she got better.
Number 5, we got Bad Choice Noah's Bad Choice. I mean, it shouldn't at all be a surprise that someone named Bad Choice Noah made it onto our list. That's like a guy who's named Fall Off Skateboard Pete being in a fail video. It's just gonna happen. Well, one night Noah decided that he was gonna try and feed his large collection of snakes at 3 AM with the lights off, only lighting the area with a small flashlight. He did this because he thought maybe he would catch something paranormal on camera. I guess the logic is that ghosts like snakes or something. While doing this, one of his snakes almost bites his hand and then escapes from its cage. This could have led to Snakes in a Dark Room, which is the horror sequel to Snakes on a Plane that the public has been begging for. I don't think he ran into any ghosts, but being in a dark room and nearly getting bitten by a massive snake and then having it set loose without Sam Jackson there to save you is enough to make it onto this list.
Coming into number 4, this actually truly scares me. We have sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is so nasty. Landon and I recently did a list where we mentioned it, and honestly, I think that those of us who have ever experienced it can all agree that it is the scariest thing to deal with. Seconds feel like hours and you're literally stuck, unable to move. Sometimes if your face is in your pillow, you'll feel like you can't breathe and you think this is going to be your life forever. Honestly, it's really horrible. On scanning the internet, it actually seems like, oddly enough, a lot of people experience sleep paralysis at, you guessed it, 3 AM. While we have a scientific explanation for the horror, a lot of cultures believe that the phenomenon is caused by ghosts. Yes, ghosts. They believe that a malevolent spirit sits on your chest at night while you're sleeping and literally tries to suffocate you. The legend is most prevalent in Cambodia, but Thailand have their own version called Fiam. They believe that the Fiam don't attack women, so a surefire way to combat the ghost and keep yourself safe at night is to wear lipstick to bed. Do you hear that, Jay? Scientists will tell you that sleep paralysis happens when you wake up in the middle of REM sleep, the deep part of sleep. The part that usually happens around 3 AM, which coincidentally is the witching hour. So, science or ghost, you decide.
And now we come to number 3 on the list, and we got Mo, Sargi, and the Old Train Station. I feel bad for these YouTubers that have channels that are all about terrifying places. It becomes your livelihood. You literally need to go into some haunted places, possibly filled with demons that want to eat your lips just so you can make some money. I think I would rather be one of those guys that clean dog poop out of parks. Well, unfortunately for Mo, this is what his viewers crave, and it led him to walking down an abandoned train station at 3 AM. While doing this, a bunch of super normal things happen, like the sounds of a crying little girl. And at points, there even seemed to be small, child-sized handprints on the windows. Is this because kids like to play around old abandoned train stations? Or because there's a scary little child ghost that's waiting to steal your body so she can live once again? I don't know, and frankly, I'm not gonna find out. The only mystery that I'm gonna solve is who's this season's Bachelor. I love trash TV.
Alright, Alright, I started this list by talking about witches, so I wanted to end my part with something magical at number 2. We have Dobby on CCTV. Dobby is a free elf. Had to say it. This was quite a recent 3 AM occurrence, and it looked like Dobby the house elf, or a tiny creepy troll. I'm gonna go with house elf though, because even though they're both a little bit creepy, one can make puddings float, and I think that's kinda cool. So 3 AM Dobby went viral in June 2019 when Twitter user JB tweeted this footage with the caption, "A lady posted this and said she saw this on her home camera this morning, very early hours. What do you all think it is?" The internet was quick to respond and say that it is the late great house elf Dobby. Dobby's dead though, so this is some like reincarnation stuff going on. In just 1 week, the footage got 31 million views. The footage was shot on CCTV camera outside Vivian Combs' home, and as of yet doesn't have an explanation. It seems like the footage has been declared as authentic, so it isn't doctored. Some say that the footage is of a kid in a funny hat, but like, why are these kids out at witching hour? Unless, you know, they're little demons. I think a lot of kids are little demons, so I'm gonna go with that.
And finally we have number 1 with lourock at the Yellow House. Honestly, if you ever wanted to check out a haunted house, this would be the way to do it. Wait for a streamer to go into one with a live stream. That way you can see all the spooky stuff in moment. Nothing's edited. And if the streamer gets attacked by a ghoul, you can spam F in the chat. lourock decided to do just this. He went with some of his crew to go check out a famously haunted house known as the Yellow House. While inside, I'm sure you can imagine some weird stuff started happening. First, he entered a room with a bunch of clothes hangers which started moving on their own. Then he walked into a space and heard what seemed to be a glass falling off a table, but no one else was in there with them. Then he heard the noise again. Then he also came across a rope that looked like it was used to hang someone upside down by their feet. There was also a room that had all the drywall busted out, like it's haunted by a ghost named Kyle. In the end, Lou gets pretty spooked and skedaddles out of there so he can live to live stream another day. Number 10. St. John's Mercy Hospital. Oh, hospitals are a hotbed for all sorts of weird things. I mean, people die in them every day. There has to be a bunch of ghosts and ghouls hanging around. If you die in a hospital, it must be like waking up in the middle of Mardi Gras when you become a ghost. Thousands of people just confused trying to find their friends. That's basically every festival I've ever been to. So a hospital at 3 AM must be the best place to catch some eerie things happening. Well, this hospital had what looks like a ghost browsing through a magazine. I mean, that's not the scariest thing a ghost could do. I guess ghosts get bored in the afterlife as well. Well, this ghost kind of flips through some pages slowly like it's browsing an IKEA catalog for some sort of paranormal bed frame, and then out of nowhere, the whole room starts getting tossed. Everything's flying around like a wrestler with a good insurance policy. Turns out this wasn't a ghost at all, but a tornado came barreling through the town and smacked right into this hospital in the middle of the night. Number 9. Summer night knocking. Summer nights as a kid were the best. School was done and you could stay up as late as you want, doing whatever. You could be out riding bikes, or you could just be binging food and watching movies until you pass out like a drunk bachelor. This Redditor was having a good night until there was a strange knock at the door in the middle of the night. It was submitted by Redditor Deadman V. He said he was chilling in his room late at night and he heard his younger brother calling to him from the living room. He went to check on his brother and his brother told him that there was a knocking at the door, so Deadman V went to go inspect. When he looked out the window that's right next to the door, he saw a young boy smiling back at him through the window. The kid was probably 11 or 12 years old. This obviously freaked him out, so he ran up to his parents' room with his little brother to tell them what had happened. His parents went to go check if the little boy was there and he was gone. Little did they know, they just let a ghoul into their home. No, I'm just kidding. The kid ended up being a neighbor and he was sneaking out at night trying to spook people. The classic prank of a smiling kid at the front door in the middle of the night. Gets them every time. Number 8. Roadblock. When you're driving at night, you gotta be super careful. You can't see well and your chances of running into a wild animal goes up tenfold. This was caught on a driver's dash cam. He was driving along when he comes across what looks like a roadblock set up with some traffic cones. But there's no cops around. Instead, there's a hooded man with some 2007 styled baggy pants who starts walking up to the car. Okay, if you're gonna try and pull this trick, maybe don't look like every dude who robs a convenience store and is late on his 5 kids' child support payments. As this rap video background actor starts approaching the car, the driver asks him a couple times what's going on. After a few non-responses, he decides that this is too much of a sketch fest and he speeds off out of there. Thank God this guy was probably too dumb to pull off this heist for real. Number 7. Peacocks. Alright guys, I'm about to educate you. So this one was submitted to Reddit by Redditor Catch Aaron the Sly. She was visiting her grandma way up in the country, and the thing about her grandma is she has a bunch of pet peacocks. I can't wait to get old. You can stop caring about what other people think about you and be like, yeah, I want a bunch of peacocks because that's what I'm gonna do, because I don't care if people want to have sex with me anymore. I'm a peacock lady now. It must be so freeing. Well, late one night she was on her grandma's porch when she started to hear what sounded like someone crying out in pain. This started going on long enough that it scared the hell out of her and she ran inside. She found out later that peacocks cooing sound exactly like a person crying out for help. I bet you didn't know that. Number 6. Slender Man at a hotel. Didn't Slender Man start as some sort of Reddit rumor? I'm not really sure on this one. Please let me know in the comments because I know I'm gonna forget. But what I do know about him is he's supposed to be some sort of supernatural being that likes to eat people or absorb them, and he looks like the cross between a faceless albino and a guy with a wicked tailor. And he might have been spotted in this hotel. A security guard was up late one night when he saw what looks like to be a tall man walking in the background of security camera footage. The part that was really freaking him out about this is there wasn't anyone else working in the hotel at this time, and this tall skinny man was spotted in an area where only workers can get to. So was this a supernatural being, or was this just a mistaken identity? Number 5. Fence jumper. If you look longly out your window, most people think you're gonna look up at the stars and find true love. Well, sometimes you just see someone running for their life. Yeah. Redditor Zappa_07 was peering out his window when he saw someone jump a fence into his backyard. This guy was running around all scared. He hid in his backyard and then jumped into his neighbor's backyard. I want to speculate on what's going on here, but I know a dude running from the cops when I see one. This guy was trying to make a break for it. Number 4. Gas station. So this story originally popped up on Reddit and it was super weird. It's about a gas station. One of the employees and the owner started noticing that motor oil was going missing. They had suspicions that it was one of their other employees, a guy named Jeremy. Never trusted Jeremy. So they looked over the security camera footage and they saw what looked like a loop, because the same customer would come in every couple hours and take some motor oil. They then noticed that it wasn't a loop at all, but it was Jeremy coming in every few hours. It was super creepy. They were gonna confront him about this the next day, but he never showed up for work, like he knew that he was gonna get caught. Later, the FBI came in to ask questions about him, and he may have been linked to an arson involving motor oil and the death of an entire family back in 1996. Whew. Number 3. Cleaning home. I found this one written by Redditor Rolly Kirby Derby. She was home alone one night because her parents were out at a work function and she knew they weren't going to be home until late. She wanted to do something nice for them, so she decided to clean the whole house. She had all the lights on, she was playing music, and she started to hear a door creak open. She went to go look at it, and it was the door to her sister's room, but her sister wasn't home. Jokingly, she said, "Shut the door already," and then the door slammed shut. She freaked out, went into her room, and waited for her parents to get home. Number 2. Working from home. Here's a hot tip for people out there if you're home alone. Lock your doors. Hell, you should lock your doors even if your house is packed and you're expecting more people to come over. You don't want some lame stranger to wander into your house and kill the buzz at your party. Well, Redditor Hawk Singer was working home alone late one night, all by himself at 2 a.m. I know this list says 3 a.m., but I'm not going to care about 1 hour. I like this story too much. This is when he heard the coats move on the coat rack next to the door. This would normally only happen when someone opened the door, but it was way too late to come over, so he figured it was his cat jumping onto the coats. He went over to go grab his cats when he saw a man standing in his living room. Was he drunk? Was he crazy? We don't know. All we know is that he started yelling about where all his stuff was. He was very upset about that. So Hawk Singer had to act fast, and he grabbed the katana that his mom bought him for Christmas and chased this guy out of his house. That's how you deal with problems, baby. You threaten them with a sword. And shout out to his mom for getting him the best gift that he's gonna have to hide from every single girlfriend. Number 1 on our list, haunted home. So if you're being kept awake by spirits for 6 nights in a row, you should probably start looking for some listings. Nobody likes bad roommates, living or dead. This guy was having just that happen to him and decided to vlog his whole experience. The best part about this is he said he would continue to vlog the experience if people continued to like and subscribe. If you're gonna put yourself through some spooky torment, you might as well get paid for it, baby. The freakiest part about this video is when his phone flies off the receiver.
Figure out what's going on, and it's happened a couple times already. And I don't know.
Now I understand how this guy is able to endure this paranormal punishment. He has a corded home phone. If he's willing to put up with that, that means he's willing to put up with anything. Those things are so annoying.
Starting us off with number 10 is the booty call, and trust me, this is the furthest thing from a booty call. Lol. So this one's from Reddit user F-, who shared she lives in quite a rural area near some well-known meth labs. Great, we love a very impactful start to any story. Now it was 2 or 3 AM at the time, and she heard some banging on the door and honestly just assumed it was her boyfriend attempting a booty call, which he did often, but when she looked through her window it was not her boyfriend. It was some stranger with a beard, and freaking out she backed away from the door. To make this whole thing even more horror movie-esque, her house was located in a cellular dead zone, and so she grabbed the landline. That too was dead, meaning she was royally The guy at the door was still pounding and shouting, "Let me in," and so the girl grabbed a knife and locked herself in the bathroom, genuinely planning on stabbing him in the neck if he came in, and honestly, good plan, I'd probably do the same. Now at this point the guy was working his way around the house trying to find an alternative door to get in. The user realized one of the handsets of the landline may work, and so she got out of the bathroom and called 911, and thankfully it worked. She stayed on the phone for 15 minutes while the officer made his way there, and when he got there, he found out the guy was actually just some drunk kid who was at a party down the road. He thought the user's house was his friend's and was trying to get back into the party. Little did he know he was scaring the shit out of this young girl who was hiding in the bathroom ready to stab him. Coming in at number 9 is the ex-boyfriend. Not mine, don't worry, I know my ex has made many appearances in my videos, he's all good. This one is a girl called Emily's ex, and honestly Emily, I prefer my ex over yours, no cap intended. Now she shared that when she was 19 her parents had gone away for the weekend and she decided to stay behind. She had gone to a party and was pretty drunk and pulled a Britney Spears and decided to give herself a haircut because she was moving to university next week, and I mean, honestly, what a better time to give yourself a haircut than when you're drunk at 3 AM, am I right? Wrong. Do not do that. It's gonna go horribly wrong. Hopefully for Emily it did not, but I'm pretty sure it did. Either way, she cut that shit off in the shower, and when she left the bathroom she found a note in the hallway that said, "I was going to leave you a note, but I see that you are here." She freaked the hell out because here she was drunk, walking around the house naked, thinking she was alone, but she very much wasn't. She entered her room to find a guy with hair covering his face standing in the middle of her room. Like, who are you? She screamed her lungs out until she actually looked at him and realized it was her ex-boyfriend that she had dated 3 years prior for a total of 2 weeks, until he of course ran away from home. Boys. Problematic, honestly very problematic. Turns out he heard she was moving away and wanted to talk to her, so he obviously thought the best course of action was to break into her house at 3 AM. And men are trash. Not one of them before all the guys like, no I'm not trash, I said some of them. They talked and he left, and she later found out he was institutionalized with schizophrenia, so I mean, that explains a lot. Honestly, that explains a lot. But technically, if he ran away, did they really break up? There was no breakup because he ran away. Technically, they're still together. At number 8, we have the intruders. This one comes from Redditor Yo Soy Noi, and honestly, if this happened to me, I wouldn't have been half as brave. I honestly would have just locked myself in a closet and silently cried. So she shared that when she was 13, she used to live with her dad, and he would go on a lot of business trips and leave her alone in the house for a week at a time. One night, she was watching TV at 3 AM when she suddenly heard the sound of footsteps walking in her front yard going towards her backyard. It then dawned on her that because the lights were on inside the house, she couldn't see outside, but anyone on the outside would be able to see inside. Now she considered calling 911, but then her dad would have found out, and that meant she could say bye-bye to being left alone at home, so she grew some balls and decided to investigate. She grabbed an axe, the only weapon she could find, and went outside. She shouted hey to see if anyone would respond, and she heard the deck chairs scraping on wood, and then 2 pairs of footsteps running in the opposite direction. Can you imagine? Like, I'm sure she went out thinking she was just being paranoid, but to actually have your worst nightmare confirmed, I can't even. Like, for someone to hear those footsteps, I would have cried, like I said. She ran and locked herself into the house, but then realized if she did that, she'd be trapped inside, so she ran out back into the street and saw on the right that 2 men were walking away from the house. Now they were about 1.5 blocks away, and instead of just going back into the house and locking the door, she started chasing them, only to find out no one was there as she turned the corner. Where did they go? Were they real? Did they have a getaway car? Were they hiding in a bush? What was going on? Filling our number 7 slot is the cackle. Now this dude was having a bad unproductive day, so he decided if there's one thing I can achieve today, it's doing the laundry even if it's at 3 AM. Honestly, I've never empathized with a Redditor more than I do right now. I stan my unproductive brother 100%. I support you. Now either way, his laundry machine happened to be in an isolated alcove in the basement of his house, and the lights in that area had blown and he just hadn't fixed them. Meaning the basement was dark as hell, but the mission to do laundry had to be done, you guys. It had to be done. So he ventured down there, filled the washing machine, and as he was halfway through the basement, he heard a loud cackle. Like, imagine someone imitating a witch but 10 times deeper and hoarser, like she'd been smoking cigarettes for like 20 years. That's what this guy heard right behind him, and he did not even turn around. He didn't even breathe, he just ran for the stairs and never looked back. Honestly, we stan. We stand completely. Now at number 6 is the airport drive. Now this was shared by an anonymous guy who said when he was about 14 years old, his mum went to drop his dad to the airport at 2 AM, so he was home alone till she got back. Now the airport was about an hour from his house, and around 30 minutes after they had left, he heard the front door unlock and open, and then footsteps going into the kitchen. Now usually if his mum had come home, she would call out and say hi, but these footsteps sounded heavy, like a man with boots on. So the boy decided to call out, and then the footsteps abruptly stopped. He shot himself and grabbed his dog and hid in the corner of his room. Great move, I support it, I would do the same. Now a full hour later, his mum came home and he rushed to her and told her everything, and the fact he never heard the footsteps leave the house. But the weird part was the front door was locked, so were the windows. There were no footprints on the floor or carpet, so till this day he has no idea what happened. If someone broke in, if they didn't, was it a ghost, or what was it? Coming in at number 5 is the toilet break. This one's from Reddit user Blythist, who shared that they are deaf, but they lived in a house with 2 roommates who were hearing. Now they also shared that at night they don't wear their hearing aids, and one night they woke up at 3 AM because they really had to pee. Obviously, as they're making their way to the bathroom, they can't hear anything going on in the living room or around, and they notice the front door of the house is open. Despite them locking it before sleeping and all the roommates having already been inside the house, like no one was coming. The user was freaking out because they could be getting robbed at that moment or about to be hit on the head, and they'd have no clue. Now at this point, they don't even make it to the bathroom, they just run back to their bedroom and lock the door. The next day, the user asked their roommates if they had opened the door or heard anything at night, but none of them had. So who the hell opened the door? At number 4 is the mic check. This one's short and sweet, but legit gave me goosebumps when I was reading it, I kid you not. So this anonymous person shared that they sleep talk quite a bit, so they downloaded the sleep talk recorder app on their phone, and it basically only records when it hears sounds. So whenever the person wakes up, you can play back a bunch of 10 to 20 second long sound clips, and they're usually of you just changing positions in bed, but at least you can track what time the sounds take place. Now one night the person was home alone and slept as they usually did, and when they woke up they were going through the recordings and got to one that was taken around 3 AM. In the recording he heard someone say 1, 2, and it sounded like a German man, and there's no freaking way the storyteller made that sound because she was a teenage girl and she was home alone at the time, so who the hell was this man? Was he German? Who was he? How did he get into the house? Why was he mic checking the sleep recorder app? I'm very confused and I have many questions. Filling on number 3 slot are the Previous Tenants. Now this one was submitted by an anonymous person who said when they were 14 years old, they were on the computer for way too long and next thing you know it's 3 AM and they're regretting all their life decisions. Been there buddy, been there. Now they turned their computer off and went to get some water and didn't even bother turning the lights on because everyone was asleep. As they're walking back to the bedroom, a very strong feeling washes over them of being watched. The person turns around and sees this cloud of white mist just floating right behind them. Now there were no windows facing where they were standing and no light, so it couldn't have even been a trick of the lights. Freaked out, they went back to their bedroom and forgot about it a few days later. Now a year later, they had to move into the bedroom closest to that white mist spot and they refused to ever sleep with the light off, which I mean, fair enough, I get it. The person ended up finding out that in the 80s, a guy who was renting the house was arrested for rape, kidnapping, and the disappearance of various kids in the area, and he was suspected for the murder of his wife. They never found her body, but according to him, she just ran away. Great cover story, bro. Dogs couldn't find anything on the farm, but when this person moved in, their mum found a little boy's boxes in the toilet tank. They're pretty sure the white mist was either the ghost of the wife who was killed or the boys who were kidnapped, neither of which are ideal. Now at number 2 is the break-in. This one's from Redditor Mama_Catfish, who shared that about 6 years ago she was living in South Korea in an apartment alone. Now one weekend she was about to sleep and it was around the 3 AM mark, obviously because this whole video is about things going on at 3 AM. Now as she's trying to find a comfy position to sleep in, she starts hearing this creaking noise but dismisses it as a cricket. But she hears it a couple more times, so she was like, clearly I'm not going to be able to fall asleep until I kill this thing, so she gets up in bed. She looks towards the noise which is coming from the kitchen and sees a freaking man climbing into her house through her window. The creaking noise was the sound of the man opening the window very slowly and she lost it. She yelled at the man and he quickly jumped back out of the window, but the girl could not be consoled. She called her boyfriend and he ran down 11 flights of stairs and the kilometer to her house to see if she was fine. Wow, he's like the real MVP, hubby material right there. Safe to say they packed her bags and she never spent another night there. But also, like, what floor was she on? Like, did he just jump out of the window? Like, did he die? Like, how does one just jump out of the window and survive? And finally, at number 1 is Grandma. This one's from an anonymous Redditor who said when she was 10 years old, she was staying with her grandma for a few days. Despite having to go to school the next day, she still woke up at 3 AM because she really had to pee. Standard. Honestly, I hate needing to pee during the night. I just hold it in. She pees and goes back to bed, but when she gets in, she hears someone whisper, "Don't close your eyes, pretty." And from the whisper, she can tell the source is under her bed. The girl starts bawling her eyes out in bed, and the voice then says, "Do you know what I'm going to do to you?" Like, that is terrifying, literally. The girl runs out of the door into her grandma's room and tells her there's 100% a man under her bed. The grandma goes sicko mode and locks her door and pulls out a shotgun from her closet. She then yells at the door saying she has a gun, and the man shouts back saying no she doesn't, and she then shoots the bloody door. Then they heard footsteps running out of the house, and turns out he broke the glass back door with a branch, and that's how he got inside. Can we just have a slow clap for this grandma right now? Like, this woman, man. This woman.